You know, buttonholes. I've met so many sewers that say they are afraid of buttonholes. Well, the machine does most of the work. So we're going to explore buttonholes today in the Baby Lock Vesta. We're going to do them the traditional way in sewing, but there's also really cool things you can do in embroidery. Yes, buttonholes and embroidery. I'm Cathy. This is Sewing Tech Talk. Don't be afraid. It'll be easy. So we have a giveaway for today's video. It's a fun pack of embroidery thread. Every time you like, share, or comment, you're in it for a chance to win. And these are the colors I'm going to use in my embroidery today, so it's a great little prize to win. And check back in a little bit to see if you win to claim your prize. Oh my goodness, I've talked to so many consumers, sewers. I'm out there and I mention buttonholes and they just, they go crazy. They say, I'm afraid of buttonholes. I guess that's from the days when they had a machine that you had to select the different buttonholes in a 4-step buttonhole. You had to select the first part, sew it, and then click, click, click to the next 3 parts of the buttonhole. And there's still machines out there that do that. And if you have one, then good. I talk about that in my handout. There is a handout for today's video and all my videos. And in my handout, I'm talking about a little bit about where buttons go, button placement, how you can measure for buttons. I'm going to show you an easy way in the video today, but there's more information in the handout. So go there, go into the description, click on that. The handout for today's video is there, and all my other handouts are there too. So there might be something that you might be interested in. So I usually talk about supplies first, but since so many people out there have told me that they think buttonholes are scary, I just wanted to start out by sewing one to show you how easy it is when it's automatic on an electronic machine. So I've set up the Baby Lock Vesta. I'm putting buttonholes in my little robe that I'm making here, and I'm set up for the first buttonhole. Well, almost. Let me show you. We'll talk about measuring devices in a little bit, but I've measured the distance between one buttonhole and the next. I literally take a piece of paper and fold it. I'll show you that in a bit. But I know the distance I have to go between. I've snapped the automatic buttonhole foot on, and I put a button in there to measure it. We'll see that in just a second. The one thing I wanted to show you is you do have to let the machine interact with the foot. So if you can see the screen, if you can see the machine here, red means what? Red means no go. So if I was to press the power pedal right now, the machine would tell me that I haven't lowered the buttonhole lever. So the buttonhole lever is this little thing. It's like a little piece of scenery that comes down, and it's going to come down and it's going to click right behind the one part of the foot. Notice the light went from red to green. Green means go. So I've actually even unplugged my foot control from my machine because I want the machine to do absolutely all the work. So all I have to do, I have the buttonhole foot on there. I'm just going to press green, means go. The machine's going to automatically make the buttonhole. It's going to go backwards first because that's the best way to do it. It's going to make that one little bar on the left-hand side. It's coming up to do the other side. Notice my hands have never left my arms. I am going to watch it. Make sure it doesn't get stuck on anything. And I've asked the machine to clip the thread at the very end. Now that wasn't hard at all. The machine did all the work. And no, there's no little laser that comes down and cuts the slit in the middle of the buttonhole open. We still have to do that by hand. I don't think they trust us with lasers on the machine. So I lift up my presser foot. There it is, the perfect button. All I have to do is use my measuring device and go to the next one. They're going to be the same size and they're going to be automatic. So let me go up close and let me show you what this buttonhole foot looks like. And you know we can sew on buttons too. So we're going to snap this foot off. And then let's go over here and let's take a look at this buttonhole foot and how we set it up with our button. So here we are with some of my supplies. And let me get my little pointer device here. So here is the automatic buttonhole foot. And there's lots of stuff, and I want to point out a couple areas for you. So here's where it attaches to the machine, and that's where it slides. these two little like raised areas right here, that's where that buttonhole lever needs to come into the middle of between those two. And notice I put the button in the back of the machine. The buttonhole foot is going to automatically measure that button. Now, what if I have a bigger button? Well, obviously, it goes bigger, and I can take my bigger button, put it in there, and it's going to measure the size of that button automatically. It's actually going to add a little bit extra on there so that the button easily goes through the buttonhole when it's finally made. If your button is bigger or awkward, it doesn't have to stay in the buttonhole foot. So here's a big giant oval button. I'm going to put that in there, and it does stay, right? It does stay. But what if I have this giant leather ball button? It literally does not stay in the foot. That's okay. I'm just going to open the foot, use it to kind of measure. Yep, that looks good. And the button does not have to stay inside the foot. Pretty cool, right? Now, let's look at the front of the foot. This is the front of the foot where it snaps on the machine. This is towards you. And if you look, you can see there's a little red crosshairs right here, and then there's little green on either side. That helps you place where the buttonhole is going to be. Now, it's always going to make a buttonhole going backwards away from you. So if you're making a buttonhole on, this is like, say, pretend this is the edge of a shirt. I'm going to put this right here, and it's going to make the buttonhole going this way. So I'm not going to put it back here. I'm going to put it up here. How far back do you put it? How do you align it up? Well, I know it's going to be super hard to see on the camera, but right here on the side, there's like a little mark. There's a little indentation into the plastic. And actually, you could maybe take a Sharpie and make a mark on the plastic right here to help you see that a little bit better. On some feet, they're metal here and plastic here. It's generally the right distance for a smaller button to come from the edge of the fold of the front of a garment, right? So if you're putting the buttons in horizontally, there it is. That's about where you would start, and then that gives you that distance right there. Now, if you're doing buttons vertically, you just keep in mind that you're going to start and you're going away from you. So just keep in mind where you're measuring. I do talk about that in the handout. I know it sounds kind of complicated on a video. Now, one thing to think about though, I've gone in this distance for this button, and that's great. But if I have the Gigantor button, here's my Gigantor button, and if I have that in, see how the button's going a little bit over the edge? Just keep that in mind if you have a bigger button. You might want to start a little bit closer in because this shank of the button is going to end up right along there. It's just a common sense kind of thing. So when you're putting buttons on, just kind of think about it. Think, where's it going to be? You know, how is it going to work? Should I put them horizontally, vertically? I talk about that in the handout too. So pretty simple, really. Now, there's something else that we can do when we're doing a button that this buttonhole rather, that this foot really helps. What we can make is we can make what's called a corded buttonhole. It's a little bit fancier because you're going to be stitching over the top of thread. Why would you even bother to do that? Well, if you've done a button on maybe a knit garment, and the button has started to gap on you after time, that actually means that if it gaps enough, that you're going to come unbuttoned, and that might be something you don't want to experience. What you can do is you can make a corded buttonhole. And what you do is you take a thread, and you're going to sew over the top of it. Now let me close this up so that you can see just a little bit better. On the back of the foot, there's a little post, and you put your extra cord there. Hold on, let me get it so that hopefully you can see it. There you go, your extra cord goes there, and it comes under the front, and in the front of the foot, there's a place to snap that cord in, right? Now, this is just 2 pieces of the thread I'm going to use to sew this button. And I don't know if you can see it, but what happens is it's kind of separated out. I want at least a couple threads because I want it to be strong. Well, it's nice if you can use a thicker thread in there that'll let the machine sew over the top of it. And you may not have a matching thread to the thread that you're going to be using in a thicker size? Or do you? You actually do. And once again, your machine's going to come to the rescue. So what I did is I took a longish piece of thread and I put it through the hole of the bobbin. Got it? Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to make our thicker cord, and then we're going to go over and we're going to put it on the machine, and we're going to sew this practice buttonhole up. But let me make our cord first, and then we're going to come over to the machine. So here is my thread on the bobbin. I'm going to click it on my bobbin winder. Now I'm not winding a bobbin, I'm using the bobbin winder to twist the thread. Got it? So I've unplugged my machine. I click the bobbin over. It's ready to wind a bobbin, but it's really just going to twist my thread. This is so cool. So I'm going to press the button to start it, and it's just going to twist and twist and twist and twist and twist and twist and twist. When I think I have enough, I'm going to hit stop. Now, here's my thread, and it's mighty twisted. I know you can't see it, but trust me. So I'm going to take the middle of my thread, pull my two ends together, lift it off the bobbin winder, just like that, and then if I let it go, boom, it twists upon itself. I straighten it out, and all of a sudden, I have this really nice thicker cord. Sweet, right? And it's thread that's going to absolutely match. So now let's sew this on with this buttonhole foot. Let me bring it over and I'm going to show you that corded buttonhole. So here's my buttonhole foot. It goes on this way. I'm going to put my imaginary button in there. I'm going to bring my new exciting thicker cord over, and I'm going to click it in the front. Both of them in the front, and that holds it in place. Maybe I should have made a longer cord, eh? There we go. Right? Now I was going to stick it up on the machine. Now I could tie it there if I wanted to. Snap it on. Oops, it came off. Sometimes you put the stuff on the foot before you put it in, and sometimes you put the stuff on the foot after you get it on the machine. Now I'm going to line it up with that little thing on the side, lower it down. Now, I don't know if you can see that on the video. Hold on, let me push it in so we're going on there, right? There we go. There we go. Now, I have the two cords right in there. I'm going to line my foot up to make sure that everything is where I want it to be. And it's just as automatic as it was before. I'm simply holding the cords in the front till they get started to sew over the top of them. And those little mark, that post in the back and the two little holes in the front, is going to hold the cords so the machine can perfectly sew over the top of them. Now I'm going to use a different, the green thread I had before so that you can see. But let's just make a buttonhole. Why is it red? Well, I have to pull down my buttonhole lever, don't I? And there we go. We'll make a little bit bigger buttonhole that you can see, and let's go. Ta-da! All right. So I used purposely I used a different color so that you could see. But can you see that I missed a little bit there? Yeah, that's okay. But you can see that it's stitched over the top of this cord, and this buttonhole is now going to be very secure. When I'm done, all I do is I take it and I pull this one end in, just like that. I'm going to put these two ends on a big-eyed needle, and I'm going to bury it within the folds of my fabric right in there. Now when you make a buttonhole, you're going to always do it on maybe like an interface. You always have interfacing in there as a general rule. But this buttonhole, nice and secure, and if I'd used matching thread, I dare you to see basically where it would have been. So that's pretty cool. And now there's different buttonholes on your machine as well. I'm going to go to the screen and I'm going to show you that there's different kinds of buttonholes that you can select. this machine is the Vesta, and it actually comes with this kind of little punch device. Now, what is this for? Well, this is actually for making a keyhole buttonhole. And the keyhole buttonhole is when you have a button with a shank on it, just like this, you're going to want to have room for that button shank to be in it, right? So let's explore what the buttons look like on the Baby Lock Vesta. Here's the basic buttonholes, and if you want to see any of them up close, you can touch that buttonhole and then touch the magnification screen, and it's going to show you basically what that buttonhole looks like. Now, if you don't know what this buttonhole does, you can open up your owner's manual and it tells you what every buttonhole is for. I'm just saying you're allowed to read your owner's manual. Okay. Now, I can also adjust the size of any of these buttonholes. I can come up here, and what's cool about the Baby Lock Vesta is that what you see is what you get. So if I want to make this a smaller buttonhole, meaning not as wide on each side, if I want to put these little stitches closer together, I can do that. So I can totally adjust my buttonhole. I'm not stuck with what the machine recommends. But I have other buttonholes as well. This is those keyhole buttonholes that I talked about. And this little device is going to go right in there to punch out that area for that to accommodate the shank of the machine. Pretty cool, right? So they've thought of everything. Now, that's buttonholes basically in sewing. You can also sew on a button as well. So when I come over here, I can stitch an eyelet. It's like on a belt, you'd have an eyelet. I can also stitch a button on. There's a special foot that comes with the machine, and it looks a little bit like this. So there's the special foot that comes with the machine. It's the M foot on the Baby Lock Vesta, and it's designed to be used with this stitch. So, oops, when I pick that stitch, whoop, where'd I go? I touched it inappropriately. Let's go find it again. There's that button stitch. Try not to touch the screen because it instantly moves. It tells me that this is the foot I need to use, and it shows me it's just going to stitch back and forth. Now, most buttons, you may not know, the distance between the two holes, no matter generally what the size of the button is, it's pretty much the same distance. So the machine has been set up specifically for that distance. So I can put the machine on. I'm going to line up the holes with the different than buttonholes. These are the holes in the button with a little red mark right there. And I actually have a thing that I can pull forward if I wanted to make a shank on that button. If I want the button to hang out a little bit farther away from the fabric, that's if you're beating a buttonhole or sewing your button on a heavy fabric like a coat or something. You don't want it to pull in. You want it to have extra thread to come on up there. So I've chosen that stitch. And actually, I want the machine to clip the threads when I'm done, when it's done sewing the button on. So what I'm going to do, touch the scissors. So it's automatically clip the threads. Now let's sew this button on. I've chosen the stitch. We're going to go over to the machine, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little test piece of fabric, and I'm going to take off this buttonhole foot. I'm going to put the lever back up into its happy place, snap my foot off, and then we'll put the button sewing on foot on. Now, you can put the button in the foot like I said, sometimes it's easier to put the thread or the button in the foot when it's on the machine and on off. You can kind of do it either way. So I'm going to take this up, lift this lever up. It has an extra high lift on the presser foot lever. Put it on there, and I'm going to align my two little holes in the button with the little red mark. Let's go over here and we can sew it on. I can have a shank or not. This fabric is not very thick, and there's that little device right here to pull it going forward and back to give me a shank. Now, I'm going to make sure that I don't break a needle when I sew my button on. So I can just hit the power pedal and just go, but I kind of like to check it out. So I'm going to use my hand wheel just to come down, just to make sure that it's coming into that button, and I have it a little bit too far forward. So I'm going to move that side back just a little bit, rock that needle down, rock the needle back up, I know it's all set, and I'm not going to strike the button. You could break a needle, you could break a button, and if you only have X number of buttons for your project, well, you don't want to end up with X minus 1. So now I can lower the presser foot. Green means go. I haven't even plugged my foot control in. I'm just going to sew this button on with the press of a button. Boom. It's going to go back and forth, and it's going to stitch in place on the one side, and happy, happy. Not so sure that you have it completely sewn on again? Go again. Pretty easy. Now this button has 4 holes in it. I've done 2. All I have to do is pull it into the back position and repeat the process with the other 2 holes. And I've sewn my button on. All you do is when you're done, you pull it off and good to go. Pretty swift, right? So I've used a dark thread so that you can see that actually adds a little bit of interest. Now all I have to do is my other 2 holes and I'm good to go. Now that's sewing on a button. That's making a buttonhole in sewing. I'm going to go to the screen now and I want to show you how we're going to do this. We're not going to sew a button on an embroidery, but we're going to make some really spectacular buttonholes in embroidery. Ready? Okay. So now here I am in just the sewing screen. I want to switch the machine over to do embroidery. So when I always switch the machine, I turn the machine off. I remove my accessory toy box. I'm going to put my embroidery unit on. I'm going to scoot the machine over just a little bit so that you can see. Sorry about that. There we go. I always put the embroidery arm on when the machine is in sleep mode because I think of it as an operation, and you'd want to be sleeping if you had something inserted too, right? You have an operation. So let's turn the machine back on, and it's going to wake up as an embroidery machine. When I touch the screen, it's going to move on the side and it's going to find its happy place to make sure I don't have anything in the way. Good, I'm clear. I'm going to switch it over to the embroidery foot, but I want to show you all the cool different buttonholes in this machine and the button accents that I think are pretty fantastic. So I stitched one out just to show you, and here it is. So here's the buttonhole done in embroidery. Where are those? Well, you look on the screen and then there is a special little section right there. There's different embroideries here and here. This is where the buttonholes live, and this is where the buttonhole embellishments live. So I'm going to go to the buttons, and you do have quite a choice. Remember that one's that's the keyhole buttonhole, and you have that special device to cut that out. But you have some really kind of fancy ones too. Now if I was to select one like this, that's kind of a fancy button hole. If you need to see it up close, that's what it looks like. Pretty cool. Now, I have this available in 3 different sizes, large, medium, and small. And the machine's going to show you that this is a 4-inch buttonhole. That's pretty big. Actually, I've done another video, and you might want to go out and take a look at it. This would be big enough probably to put a cell phone in a pocket, right? Well, you can actually make a buttonhole pocket almost as easy as you can to sew just a regular buttonhole. It's a pretty simple process. So I encourage you to go find the incredible buttonhole pocket. It's another one of my videos that I did about a year ago. It's out there still though. I think you might be impressed. So there's my big buttonhole. That's a 4-inch buttonhole. Here's a 3-inch buttonhole. And here's a 2-inch buttonhole. Pretty cool, right? I think this is a 2-inch buttonhole. Let me show you how I came up with this little extra added on. I'm going to hit set. I'm going to touch add. I'm going to come back to here, but I'm going to go to this little part right here. Now, this little extra is that right here. It's made to go around a buttonhole. And there's lots of little add-ons that you can use. All kinds of different ones. These are kind of fancy. And that one is a butterfly wing. Now, if you think that you couldn't use a butterfly wing, think again. What I did is I hope you can see this on the main camera, I took a shawl, I just made a shawl, and I made one of those 3 or 4 inch buttonholes, and I put the one wing beside the one buttonhole, the other wing beside the other buttonhole, and now part of the shawl just fits through that little opening. The shawl, it's really just a 40-inch square of fabric that I folded on the diagonal, sewed the sides together. I have a triangular shawl because I get cold when I go in and it's air conditioning, even in the summer. So this stays on, it's kind of fun, it's kind of attractive, and that's that one buttonhole embellishment with an embroidered buttonhole. Pretty fancy, right? So that's kind of fun. Now, there's another video that I did, and what you can also do on the machine is you can make covered buttons that coordinate and match. So come on down to the screen. Let me show you here what we're going to do. This is another video that I did, so you can watch that and see how to do it. What I did is I made a covered button with one of the matching buttonhole embellishments, right? So here's the matching buttonhole embellishment right here. There's that little flower. And I brought the flower in. The machine will also show me exactly how big to cut it for the covered button. And I actually put April showers bring May flowers. I made a custom set of matching embroidered buttons for my buttonhole. What does that look like? Well, look how cool this is. Oh my goodness. Isn't that kind of fun? Oops. Kind of hard to hold. It has to be sewn on something. I could see this on the flap of a purse or a special blouse or anything. It's kind of fun. So you can make buttons and you can just sew the buttons in embroidery real fast and easy. I don't think there's any reason to be scared of buttonholes. And embroidered buttons, they're surprisingly addictive. So this machine, the Baby Lock Vesta, can sew buttons in the regular way. That's great. You can also do embroidered buttons, which I think takes it to a whole other level. So, thanks for watching me today. I hope you were inspired to go out and put a buttonhole on something. There's got to be something that you need a buttonhole on. Or at the very least, make yourself a little summer wrap. Or maybe a winter wrap. Or just a wrap for a friend for a gift. Thanks for watching. I'm going to shoot it off to George. I hope you enjoyed our exploration of the Baby Lock Vesta today. Maybe your machine does this too. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Cathy. Once again, that was a great presentation. Don't forget to click on the link to download Cathy's guide on that incredible project. Now, every once in a while, a machine's introduced to the industry that really offers high performance at a great value, and that's the Baby Lock Vesta. Not only is it a great sewing and quilting machine, but it also is an incredible embroidery machine. The embroidery features include a hoop that's larger than 10 by 6, and it has a wonderful color touchscreen. And look at this beautiful embroidery. Plus it removes the jump stitches, and it even has a special software program that sends your design via Wi-Fi right to the machine. Now, that's not all though. For a sewing machine, it has the automatic fabric sensor that senses fabric from heavy denim to sheer fabric to working with elastic or even a ribbing on a collar like a t-shirt knit. But quilting features, it actually will sew in different directions. We have some designs that are incredible for going down the sashing border. It has an automatic 1/4 inch so you can do your piecing, plus all kinds of wonderful decorative stitches. So as you see, this is an incredible sewing, quilting, and embroidery machine. Now, we have a very special buy on this machine. This machine has a manufacturer suggested list price of $59.99. But right now, it's on sale for $39.99, and we're including free shipping across the country, as well as interest-free financing is available. I want to make a very special offer for those who are watching Sewing Tech Talk with Cathy. And that is with a mystery bonus. Why is it a mystery bonus? Well, I don't have a lot of them, but I want to make sure those who are contacting me, all you have to do is mention Cathy, our Sewing Tech Talk with Cathy, and I have this bonus value that is incredible. So give us a call at 1-800-865-9664 and discover how easy it is to get an incredible sewing, quilting, and embroidery machine. Bye for now.